It is January, and for the past couple of weeks, my YouTube feed has been full of videos about how to set and keep New Year's resolutions. Apparently, change is hard, and we need some help. If there's one thing I've come to believe very strongly over the past few years, it's that lasting change does not flow naturally from self-judgment. It feels like it might, but it really doesn't. When we attempt to force ourselves into some idealized version of what we perceive to be good and right, most often we just create struggle. Our patterns of behavior are like an intricate web of automated actions. They're rooted in complicated stories and identities, all grown out of experiences we hardly even remember. And this web is so tight in its structure that no matter how hard you pull at any one thread, nothing seems to move or loosen. Often you're just making things worse. Lasting change of anything meaningful requires something very different than a self-loathing inner critic with control issues. I still have these moments where I wake up and realize that I'm fighting a pattern that I've fought and lost to over and over again. The fight is a result of non-acceptance, and the consequence is unconscious repetition. In recent years, I've grown quite detached from my own failures to change. Now these experiences make me smile. Sometimes I even laugh. It depends on the pattern. The more problematic, the more I laugh. It really is funny how we humans work. And as we smile and laugh through these situations, coming to terms with who and what we are, we start to experience that change is much better sought through acceptance than it is through judgment. I have an intellectual model around my own successes and failures when it comes to changing my ways. It's a simple one, to be fair, but it goes like this. Self-judgment is tension. It's contraction rooted in unresolved desire. Tension holds things in place. That includes personality and patterns of behavior. When we are tense, contracted, judgmental, change is a struggle leading nowhere. Acceptance, on the other hand, is a complete relaxation. When you relax, all things soften and become malleable. That includes personality and patterns of behavior. Once I relax, I am able to see clearly and make meaningful decisions about where to go next. It is the only way. People often push back on the whole acceptance over judgment concept, usually claiming that if we all just accept ourselves and each other, then we will all do bad things all of the time. But that's not how it seems to work out. And to me, that's the shadow speaking, the repressed part of us that judges others for what we are afraid to see in ourselves. The more we judge and repress, the more control the shadow has. But if we look inward with honesty and acceptance, those aspects lose strength and control. Contrary to what many believe, self-acceptance does not remove a desire to do better. In my experience, the better that we desire to do on the other side of full acceptance is a much better. Nothing has helped me more in changing my ways than learning to relax. And sure, I use spreadsheets and journals and checklists, and I set goals and attempt to manage my time. Because I'm like that. I'm logical and rational and perhaps a bit obsessive. But the real challenge is acceptance. The real work is to breathe deeper. The real flex is to relax. It has been a while and I'm back on YouTube again. I've been back a couple of times, but this time in a slightly, new way. I'm trying out a new type of expression, and I'm intending for the process of creating videos to be a joyful one, something I enjoy and something I not only feel good about the result, but also enjoy the process. Much like the bigger theme of this particular video around acceptance and judgment when it comes to driving change, where I really feel like we often forget that, well, the process that lies between someone going from where they are and arriving at where they want to go, the process in between is life. Like, that's where we live, right? Like, our life is not in those two end points, it's in between. So if we pick a process that's gonna be miserable, then you're gonna have a miserable life. And then what's the point? Like, the whole point of going on a journey of development and growth and expanding your capacity to do things or whatever, like, the whole point is a better life, and like, self-hatred and judgment is not a better life. So that would be my first, argument against this tendency to hold a deep sense of rejection towards yourself in the process of wanting to become someone different. I've had these thoughts in my awareness for a while now because of my own journey, but I recently saw a few videos that prompted this reflection for me, where like coaches and mentors, I guess, they were quite specific and explicit about like self-hatred and disgust. Even, like, literally they used the word disgust, was used as a tool to drive change. And I can say from my experience, and that's just, it's a deep truth for me, but maybe it's not for everyone. That's fine. But for me, it's also, besides being a miserable state to live from, it's not efficient. Like, it's not a good strategy for driving sustained, long-term, meaningful change. And often when we operate from that place, we'll experience relapses, and sometimes, like, the damage it does is actually you return to a place where you're worse off than where you started. And so I feel like it's really bad advice. It also, beyond that, I feel it leads to bad decisions. Like, there's something about this state of self-judgment, about the lack of acceptance, that is I feel like it's a constant state of psychological stress on your system. And like an analogy I could use is from sports, where let's say you're playing like a team sport with a ball. I used to play basketball, so that's what I know. If you put pressure on the ball, meaning you go and you try to stress out the guy or girl that has the ball, you do so not necessarily to take the ball from him, but you do it because it'll lead to bad decisions. And the way I feel when I wake up from that state of self-judgment and lean into a place of relaxation is that I realize that in that state, I'm not thinking clearly and I'm making bad choices. Like I have a weird skewed idea of what I want to achieve and why. So in terms of the big picture and the long-term journey, I feel it's really important that we never lead with a sense of self-judgment. We always first lean into like a sense of relaxation and acceptance and an acknowledgement of who we are, how we behave, how we act, and how we see the world, with an attempt at understanding and allowing. I guess so that you can, integrate that part of you, but not necessarily in a way that it gets to run your life. But yeah, I just, it's been a big part of my own understanding of how I work, like what works for me. And then, yeah, I heard these people talking about, oh, you have to, like the thing is, there's some truth to part of what they say. They will say things like, if you want to achieve something that you have not achieved yet, like your current reality is a reflection of who you are on the inside, and therefore you must change in order to get something new, like in order to create a new reality. And I don't disagree with that. But then they make that further jump and say, then so you have to reject all that you are today so that you can move towards something new. And like I said, like this one guy, he even said, you have to become so disgusted with your own behaviors that you have no choice but to do something else. I'm like, whoa, dude, like this is not healthy. And I really hope that not too many people take that advice to heart. Also knowing that, we're all different, and maybe for some that's the only way, or that works better, or maybe like you only really hate yourself for 5 minutes and then you're okay. But in my experience, it doesn't work. And the state that you operate from, going from A to B, is also going to be the state that you will still have when you are in B. Like getting to a goal from a state of miserable self-hatred. It doesn't matter how many goals you achieve, you're still going to hate yourself on the other side. That's the whole, like the big issue with this. But yeah, like I said, there's also the point that, do you really want to live a miserable like journey? And do you really want to make bad decisions because you can't think clearly, see straight? So yeah, I hope if you ever come across such a person telling you to, well, if you really want to change and achieve your goals, you should just hate yourself a little more. I hope you just tell them that maybe that works for you, but not for me. That's all. Bye.